Okay, let's talk about a feeling we all know way too well. You land in your inbox first thing, and there they are, 385 unread messages staring you down.
Oh, yeah, before the coffee even kicks it.
Exactly. You haven't even had your coffee, and you already know that piles is just going to keep growing. It's that constant, that low-grade anxiety, that crushing sense of never getting it all done.
Mm-hmm.
And then you blink, and weeks, months, even years have gone by, and you look back and think, wait, where did the time go? Why haven't I accomplished those big things I really wanted to?
It's the fundamental challenge, really, that the source material for this deep dive zeroes in on immediately. Time. Unlike almost anything else in life, it's the one resource you absolutely cannot get back once it's gone.
Right. Money, opportunities, you can often find more. But time,
Exactly. You can recover from financial loss, repair a strained relationship, find a new opportunity, but lost time. It's irretrievable. And that feeling of looking back and seeing those hoped-for accomplishments undone, whether it's, Marie feeling swamped by her family responsibilities or Rajit stuck with that unwritten proposal, it all boils down to how we use, or maybe fail to use, that precious, irretrievable element.
yeah, precisely. It feels like being pulled in a million directions, constantly reacting, never truly in control. That's why we're doing a deep dive today into some powerful insights from the book, 18 Minutes. Find your focus, master distraction, and get the right things done.
Good stuff in there.
Our mission: to cut through that noise, pull out the absolute most important nuggets, the surprising facts, and the truly actionable ideas from this source that can help you find focus, master distraction, and most importantly, get the right things done.
Getting the right things done, that's key.
Think of it as your shortcut to feeling less overwhelmed and hopefully more purposeful.
And the book offers some genuinely fascinating, often quite counterintuitive strategies for navigating that overwhelm. Let's jump right in.
Speaking of counterintuitive, one of the simplest yet maybe most powerful ideas the author introduces is the concept of just a brief pause.
Mm-hmm. The pause.
There's this great image he shares of his young daughter learning to swim. When she swallows water, she just yells, "Pause." Simple as that.
I love that.
And it made him think, why don't we do that in the middle of our busy, often overwhelming adult lives? Just pause.
Well, and there's a real biological reason why that simple pause is so effective, according to the source. It talks about this internal wrestling match, basically in our brains, between the amygdala.
The emotional part.
Yeah, that's the part that reacts instantly, often emotionally, to something jarring or unexpected, and the prefrontal cortex, the rational decision-making part. When something throws you off course, the amygdala takes over in a flash.
Right. Fight or flight kicks in.
Exactly. And raw emotion isn't where your best decisions come from, usually. A brief pause, even just a few seconds, gives your prefrontal cortex a chance to catch up, to regain control, allowing you to think more clearly beyond that initial gut reaction.
I love that biological explanation. It makes so much sense. And you see this play out in such practical ways. Think about heated discussions.
Oh, yeah.
When things get tense and you feel that urge to push back immediately, pausing buys you time. Phrases like, "That's an interesting point. I need to think about it some more. Maybe tell me more what you mean." They stop the reactive momentum.
Right. It breaks the cycle.
And the book points out that simply listening is a perfect antidote to getting caught up in that emotional rush. It doesn't commit you to a position. It just allows you to process.
And the email example is amazing. Google put that undo send feature in Gmail for a reason. People hit send and immediately regret it. We've all been there.
Definitely. That sinking feeling.
But what's truly surprising, based on the source, is that studies found people often only need a 5-second pause after hitting send to realize a mistake. Just 5 seconds.
5 seconds. That's incredible how a tiny bit of friction can make such a huge difference.
Isn't it? That tiny delay can save you from so much time, energy, and, awkward backpedaling later.
But you're right, in real-time conversations, once the words are out, there's no undo button. You can try to walk it back, but like a judge telling a jury to ignore something, it's hard to unhear.
Exactly. So that brief pause before you speak or act isn't just about avoiding mistakes. It's really about enabling you to make a smarter next move, to respond from a place of clarity rather than just reaction.
So just take a breath, basically. Create that space.
Simple as that. It's a simple intervention with potentially profound results. Ask yourself, where could a brief pause help you make a smarter move today?
That ties into another key challenge the source tackles: our tendency to see the world and ourselves, not as we are, but as we think we should be, or maybe as we expect them to be.
Ah, the expectation trap.
Yeah, the book argues this is a major driver of personal, professional, and even organizational failures. The author shares his own story of being stuck in a rut at a consulting firm until a headhunter came along, someone who had no pre-existing expectations and just saw him clearly for who he was in that moment.
And that changed everything for him.
Right. That changed the trajectory of his career.
And the source explains why this seeing what is so incredibly difficult. Once we form an opinion, particularly about people, we develop this deep-seated resistance to changing it. It's like we lock it in.
Confirmation bias.
Totally. The author notes that often in coaching, helping the person being coached is actually the easier part. The real challenge is getting the people around them to update their perception, to see the change that's actually happening, rather than clinging to their old view.
Wow. So the hardest part isn't changing yourself, maybe. It's changing how others see you, or even how you see them through old lenses. That's a tough one. So what's the strategy the book suggests for breaking through this?
Well, it's counterintuitive again. Instead of looking for evidence to confirm what you think you know, actively seek out information that might contradict it. Instead of wanting desperately to be right, cultivate a genuine desire to be wrong.
Wanting to be wrong. That feels weird. Uncomfortable.
It does. But there's a powerful irony here. The more you actively look for ways you might be wrong, the more likely you are to actually end up being right in the long run.
How does that work?
The source encourages you to constantly test your assumptions, to try and peer through the expectations that limit you, as it puts it, because if you discover you are wrong about something about yourself, about a situation, about another person, it means a whole landscape of new possibilities opens up that you couldn't even see before.
Okay. Being wrong frees you up.
Exactly. The world is constantly changing, and so are we. Seeing reality as it is right now is absolutely foundational to unlocking potential.
That idea of seeing yourself clearly leads beautifully into another surprising concept.
Yeah.
Maybe your so-called dysfunctions, quirks, or insecurities aren't things you need to conquer and hide. Maybe you should seamlessly integrate them.
Ooh, I like that. Integrate them.
The examples in the book are really striking. Like the health reformer who saved millions of lives. He worked in academia, a world that, values nuance and complexity.
City shades of gray.
But his personal quirk was seeing things in stark black and white, right and wrong. Almost simplistic, some might say. Instead of trying to be nuanced like everyone else, he embraced that view.
And it became his strength.
It became the source of his power, allowing him to cut through complex political messes and actually get things done.
Wow. Okay, or the investment manager. The guy obsessed with financial statements.
Oh, yeah. So intense, he took a 3-foot stack of annual reports on a ski trip.
Chuckles. Okay, that's definitely a quirk.
For sure. But that absolute immersion, that obsession, is what made him one of the best stock pickers there was.
Right. The point the author makes is clear. Your quirks and obsessions may very well be the secret to your power. It's about finding ways to embrace what might seem like a weakness and discovering where it can actually be your greatest asset.
And this is deeply connected to asserting your differences, right? The author shares this image of freezing pedicab drivers in Central Park and thinking heated seats. Such a simple idea, born from noticing a problem that immediately creates a difference that could attract customers on a cold day when everyone else is offering the same chilly ride.
Yet the common trap, and the book really calls us out on this, is that most of us spend tremendous effort trying not to be different. We copy what seems successful, model ourselves and our businesses on others, constantly looking for that one recipe for success.
Like there's some magic formula everyone should follow. And the result? What happens then?
Well, if you look and act like everyone else, if your business is indistinguishable from the competition, you haven't actually made yourself successful. All you've done is increase your competition and make yourself entirely dispensable.
Dispensable. Ouch.
Look at the example of Paul Fairstein. He was a master of fitting in as a consultant, highly valued for fitting in. But when personal issues hit and his sales dropped, he lost his job because, as the source puts it, he wasn't bringing anything unique to the table.
So he was good, but not different.
Exactly. He was just doing what everyone else did, perhaps a bit better, but not differently.
Wow. So his success was tied to fitting in, but that very skill meant he wasn't essential. Contrast that with Paul's new life as Swamiji. He's doing many similar things, serving on boards, guiding projects. But the book suggests he's far more successful, more indispensable now, because he stopped trying to be someone else.
He's authentic.
He feels and acts like himself, living what the book calls his inner truth.
And the takeaway is so powerful and simple. You will never, ever be as good a version of someone else as you are of yourself. It forces us to ask, what's unique about you? What quirks, what differences that maybe you try to hide could actually be the source of your power, your distinctiveness? What makes you indispensable?
Okay, that's heavy. Seeing reality, embracing your weirdness. But how do you actually figure out what direction to go in, especially when you feel completely paralyzed by too many options?
Yeah, the paradox of choice.
Right. The book talks about that feeling of standing before a million paths and choosing none, then years later regretting the wasted potential, like being faced with 24 kinds of jam and just leaving the store empty-handed because you couldn't decide.
That paralysis is real.
Mm.
And the source offers a brilliant, practical framework for cutting through that and starting to move in the right direction, even if you don't have the perfect 5-year plan figured out. It introduces what it calls the 4 elements, 4 core behaviors that when you focus on them, naturally begin to shape your direction.
Okay, the 4 elements are 1, leverage your strengths. 2, embrace your weaknesses.
Which we just talked about.
Right. 3, assert your differences. 4, pursue your passions.
Think about the giants like Zuckerberg, Page, Brin. The book points out how they leveraged their technical strengths, wisely partnered to complement their weaknesses, and asserted genuinely unique approaches to the internet. The author uses his own experience at Princeton's outdoor leadership program as another example. Leveraging his strength in group dynamics, his neurotic safety consciousness became an asset weakness in wilderness settings. His urban background gave him a different outlook, and his love for the outdoors was his passion. All 4 were there.
What's truly freeing about this framework, according to the source, is a core insight that you are already doing something, a job, a hobby, a side project, a pastime, that exploits these 4 elements right now.
Right, you don't need to quit everything and find some perfect new thing.
You don't need to start from scratch.
Exactly. The key isn't inventing a brand new you or a brand new life. The key is simply to notice what you're already doing and how these elements are present. The source encourages you to stop fixating for a moment on some distant, uncertain destination and instead focus intently on where you are and who you are, fully, broadly, and clearly. Start from there.
Okay, so that clarity is the starting point.
That clarity is the beginning of direction.
So you've got this sense of direction based on who you are and what you're already doing.
Yeah.
How do you translate that into actually focusing your precious, irretrievable time? The book gets really practical here.
Yeah, moving from the who to the what.
Right. It recommends focusing on a limited number of things over the course of a year. The author, through lots of trial and error, found his magic number was 5. 3 major work focuses and 2 major personal ones.
But it says your number might be different.
Yeah, maybe 3, maybe 7, but the key is limited, not trying to do 20 things.
Yeah. And these annual focus areas aren't just random tasks. They need criteria. They should be substantial enough that at the end of the year, you feel like you actually accomplished something meaningful.
Okay.
And critically, they need to align with those 4 elements we just discussed. Leveraging your strengths, embracing your weaknesses, asserting your differences, and reflecting your passions. They should challenge you, offer chances to collaborate, and ideally, provide some recognition for your efforts.
Then comes the famous 9-5-5 rule. Once you have these limited, substantial focus areas, the source suggests committing 95% of your time and energy to them.
95%, that's a lot.
It is. That leaves about 5%, just 5% for everything else. Miscellaneous stuff. Helping a colleague with something outside your top 5, dealing with car trouble, grocery shopping, researching a new gadget, life.
And the warning bell to watch out for. If that 5% starts creeping up 10%, 15%, 20%, the book says that's a clear sign you're spending too much of your time on other people's priorities, on trivial things, or simply on life maintenance rather than on the things you've decided truly matter for your year.
Right. The 5% is leaking, stealing focus from the 95%. So that's the yearly framework. How do you apply that focus day to day?
The source suggests a strategy it likens to bird by bird, organizing your daily tasks not into one giant, overwhelming list, but into separate lists corresponding to those 3 to 7 annual focus areas.
So like a list for focus area 1, a list for focus area 2.
Exactly. This is genius because it structures the overwhelm. Instead of a single mountain of tasks, you have several smaller hills, each clearly connected to a substantial goal. It helps ensure your daily effort is actually moving the needle on your key priorities.
And it helps you choose, right?
Yes, and it helps prioritize competing demands. If 2 things land on your plate, you can look at your focus area list and see which goal needs attention most right now, which hill needs climbing today.
It instantly makes choosing what to do less paralyzing. You're no longer staring at 24 types of jam. You're choosing from maybe 6 small lists. It makes taking action feel possible.
And just as important as deciding what to do is deciding what not to do and managing those constant interruptions.
Oh, managing interruptions.
Yeah.
We've all lived the anecdote the author shares about being so buried in email on his phone while getting off an elevator that he got off on the wrong floor,
Done that. Maybe not with the CEO, though.
only to look up and see the CEO who'd been standing right there with him, smiling and saying, "Wrong floor." We're so easily lost in our devices, our thoughts, that we miss what's right in front of us.
And the book connects that state of being lost, of constant distraction, directly to overwhelm. It argues that having too much on your plate contributes significantly to negative behaviors, ignoring emails, being rude, being short-tempered, feeling dissatisfied.
It's not who we mean to be.
Exactly. It's often not a reflection of who we are fundamentally, but simply the crushing result of having too much to process and feeling like we're failing to keep up. We have good intentions, but the sheer volume defeats us sometimes.
So how do you filter that constant barrage of requests and interruptions? The source provides a simple, practical tool, asking 3 key questions whenever a request comes in.
The 3 questions, okay, they are: 1, am I the right person for this?
Simple but powerful.
Right. 2, is this the right time for this? 3, do I have enough information to do this? If the answer to any of those is no, the book's advice is clear. Decline, delegate, reschedule, or get the information you need before you agree.
Don't just say yes automatically.
Exactly. This applies to meetings, emails, side tasks, anything that's asking for your time. The example of Nate, who started using these questions and finally went home on time, is pretty powerful.
Am I the right person? It's such a simple filter, but probably one we don't ask nearly enough. It could save so much time.
Absolutely. It instantly cuts through a lot of unnecessary obligation.
Moving into another fascinating area, the book really dives into what truly motivates us. It makes a compelling case that our environment plays a much bigger role in dictating our actions than we usually realize.
Yeah, the environment shaping behavior.
The mindless eating research is a perfect example. Things like how big your spoon is, the size of your plate, or whether a bowl of candy's on your desk or across the room have a massive impact on how much you consume, often unconsciously.
It's kind of scary how easily we're influenced.
It is. But the big takeaway there is, don't just rely on willpower to change your behavior in the wrong environment. Change the environment instead.
Make it easy to do the right thing.
Exactly. Want to eat less? Use a salad plate, not a dinner plate. Want people to interact more? Rearrange the furniture. Remove physical barriers like walls. Make it physically easier to do what you want done and harder not to do it. The environment is a powerful, often overlooked motivator.
That's such a practical shift in thinking. It's not just about internal grit.
Right. And on the topic of motivation, the Nintendo Wii solution story is fantastic. A team couldn't solve a tricky problem for a $1,000 cash bonus. Standard stuff.
Okay.
But when the prize was changed to a Nintendo Wii, and they were told to work on it in their spare time, for fun basically, they cracked it quickly.
Wow. So the fun factor beat the cash.
Apparently. The source uses this to illustrate that money isn't always the best motivator, and sometimes getting paid can actually transform something fun into work. The Wii, in contrast, represented fun. It was a visible, tangible reward, a badge of honor they could parade around.
The social aspect too.
Yeah. Special, creative projects that require ingenuity often tap into that intrinsic, fun-based motivation better than pure cash.
So tap into fun where you can. But the book also explores a less obvious motivator.
Fear.
Fear. How does that work?
The author talks about the dread he felt before writing a difficult chapter, or the fear his mind generated after a seemingly simple bee sting, conjuring up worst-case scenarios. We all do that.
Oh yeah, the brain loves a good disaster story. Right. The idea isn't to be paralyzed by fear, but to use it as a catalyst. The source hints at a 1-2 punch. Use that discomfort, that little spark of fear or dread, to get you to start.
Just to overcome the inertia.
Exactly. But then, as you take action, deliberately shift your focus to the pleasure, the positive impact, or the satisfaction of doing the work to sustain your momentum. Your mind is great at creating scary future scenarios, but you can work around it by simply acting as if things are okay, or by distracting that fearful part of your brain by engaging in the task itself.
Act as if, then focus on the positive outcome. I like that. And one more powerful driver the source mentions is the question, am I the kind of person who...
Identity.
Yeah. The AARP lawyer story is perfect for this. They were asked to lower their rates to $30 an hour and to help low-income retirees. Most said no.
Okay, understandable maybe.
But when asked to do the work for free, they overwhelmingly said yes.
Wait, free was more appealing than $30. Why?
Because, according to the source, when asked for $30 an hour, the unconscious question they were answering was, am I the kind of person who works for $30 an hour? For experienced lawyers, the answer was no. It felt like undervaluing their expertise.
Right, it clashed with their professional identity.
But when asked to do it for free, the question shifted to, am I the kind of person who helps people in need? And for many, the answer was a resounding yes. It aligned with a different, perhaps deeper part of their identity.
Wow. So the story we tell ourselves about who we are, how we finish that I am the kind of person who sentence has a profound impact on what we choose to do and how we pursue our goals.
That self-story is critical. Okay, so you have direction, a plan, strategies for managing interruptions, and you're tapping into what motivates you. But how do you actually get it done when internal obstacles like perfectionism rear their head?
Ah, perfectionism, the enemy of done.
Totally. The book definitely tackles that trap.
Perfectionism, the source notes, is a major blocker. Perfectionists struggle to start because it's never ready, and they struggle to finish because the product is never perfect. But the world, the book reminds us, rewards productivity, not perfection.
Good enough is often actually good enough.
Right. And productivity is often achieved through imperfection, taking action, learning from the messy outcome, and iterating.
So how do you break free from the perfectionist loop? The source offers several ideas. First, take small steps.
Chunk it down.
Yeah. Don't try to write the whole book. Just write one page. Don't build the whole presentation. Just create one slide. Succeeding in small, manageable steps builds confidence and momentum. Second, trust your own instincts.
Like Eleanor with the parenting books.
Exactly. The anecdote about Eleanor navigating conflicting parenting books highlights this ultimately. Blocking out the noise and doing what felt right to her was the most effective path.
And third, a really powerful technique. Get things half right.
Getting things half right, that sounds counter-perfectionist. Almost wrong.
It is, but it's strategic. The strategy is to deliberately present an incomplete or imperfect solution, and then crucially ask others, why won't this work for you?
Oh, I see. That shifts the ownership. It puts the ball in their court.
Exactly. The book gives the example of trying to improve a performance review system. Instead of endless meetings trying to perfect it, they presented a rough, half-right version. Then they asked managers, why won't this work for you?
And what happened?
Suddenly, the managers weren't just critiquing, they were identifying the specific obstacles they faced and, importantly, coming up with their own solutions like, okay, I'll just write in the standard I think is appropriate for this person. It makes them accountable. They build the other half.
That's brilliant. It's not about being sloppy. It's a deliberate tactic to involve others and gain momentum by making them part of the solution.
Right. The book also mentions this works for hiring. Give a rough job description and ask a candidate how they'd change it. It immediately signals that their input and ownership are valued.
Smart. Get them invested from the start.
Right. It's about progress over perfect and sharing the burden of refinement. And the book touches briefly on staying flexible, acknowledging there's no one-size-fits-all perfect approach for every situation. You wouldn't use a basketball on a football field, right? The tool needs to fit the context.
Which brings us full circle, really. We've covered so much from the book: pausing, seeing reality, embracing quirks, the 4 elements for direction, planning your year and day, managing interruptions, understanding different motivations, overcoming perfectionism. I mean, trying to implement all of that at once feels like another form of overwhelm.
It definitely could, and the book anticipates this. The core concluding advice is perhaps the most liberating of all. Don't try to do everything. Don't feel like you have to start from scratch and implement every single strategy today.
Okay, relief. So what's the key then?
Choose one thing, just one. Choose just one insight, one strategy, one concept from everything we've discussed that you truly believe will make the biggest difference in your life right now. Choose that one thing and commit to doing just that one thing.
Yeah. One. Okay. The book gives great examples of this, right? Like the author stopped eating sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And that single change naturally led to other healthy habits falling into place, like exercising more and eating vegetables. Didn't have to force those others.
Or the company that simplified its complex leadership program to focus only on improving manager-employee communication.
And sales dramatically increased because that was the one thing holding them back. the linchpin.
Right. The dyslexic friend who focused only on reading daily during time off conquered a perceived weakness, and that single focus led to a massive boost in confidence that rippled through other areas of his life.
Or the sales associates doing 9 out of 10 recommended behaviors, but weren't seeing results until they focused only on implementing the one missing behavior,
Mm.
measuring customers. That was the key.
The power the source emphasizes is in that focused commitment to one key change. It's not about needing a perfect plan for everything. It's about making one deliberate, purposeful shift. And by committing to that one thing, a clear direction for everything else naturally begins to appear over time.
That feels much more manageable, much less daunting. As we wrap up this deep dive into 18 minutes, think about the journey we've taken from feeling overwhelmed and watching time slip away to discovering strategies for finding focus,
Like learning to pause.
by seeing reality for what it is, by leaning into what makes you unique, by using the 4 elements to find direction, planning your time deliberately, saying no to distractions.
Understanding what truly motivates you and tackling those internal blockers like perfectionism.
The goal isn't overnight transformation or suddenly becoming perfectly productive. It's about deliberate, steady, consistent action. It's about making small, powerful choices.
Exactly. It's about progress, not perfection.
So think about your own overwhelm, your own distractions, the specific ideas that resonated with you today.
And consider this question directly inspired by the core message of the source material. Based on everything you've heard, what is the one thing you will choose to focus on starting today that you believe will make the biggest difference in your life? Choose that one thing.
Just one.
Just one. And then simply commit to doing it.